Matt and I have 10 of the most interesting players in the fantasy baseball world right now. And today we're breaking them down with a keep trade cut on today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my partner in crime, my better half, my best friend, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, guys, give us a chance on Subtext. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And guys, if you're looking for the link to our Subtext, it's in the bio wherever you're listening or watching. If not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Guys, we are switching things up, doing things a little bit differently today. If you're a regular listener, you know we haven't done an episode like this in a while. We are doing a keep, trade, cut type episode today, and I'm going to let my brother Matt take the lead on this one. So Matt, my brother, take it away.
All right. So ultimately, everybody's staring down the barrel of, players that are either clogging up, underperforming, or, have some high trade value. And, I feel like the scenarios we've kind of grouped together today, that Dom specifically grouped together today, um, kind of relate to a lot of people, whether in 10-team or 12-team leagues, where what do you do? Do you keep them? Do you cut them? Do you trade them? What's the best way to kind of capitalize on on what's going on? And ultimately, we're gonna break that down. We might have some disagreements. We might have some agreements. But I'll pose the question to Dom first. Dom, out of Matt Olson, Randy Arozarena, and Bo Bichette, keep trade cut. What are you doing?
Ooh, so this is a fun one for me, right? So I'm going to start with my boy Matt Olson. Let's start with Matt Olson. We'll break down his numbers real quick, and then we'll get into what I want to do with him. Disappointing year with Matt Olson, right? 228 batting average, 18 homers, 53 RBIs, 48 runs, 112 games, 416 at bats. I still believe in Matt Olson. The underlying stuff looks good. He's still hitting the ball hard. I think there's going to be, a nice late season run here with Matt Olson. So he's somebody, honestly, I'm keeping. I'm holding on to Matt Olson, and he's shown a little bit of signs of life lately. He had that 2-homer game on the 31st of July. Another homer the day after. A couple of 2-for-4 games out of his last 3. So I'm liking where he's at. Randy Arozarena, let's move on to him, the next guy with these names here. And Randy Arozarena, going over to Seattle in that trade. I do like the new, breath of life there for, Randy Arozarena. But ultimately, I don't know if he's going to be able to maintain it, especially with Seattle being a harder park to hit in. So ultimately, I'm trading Randy. That's where I'm going with Mr. Arozarena here. So that just leaves Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, I honestly feel like it's a lost season here. He's just a tough one for me. He's still on the IL. Numbers on the season don't look good with the 223 batting average, 29 runs, 4 homers, 30 RBIs, 5 steals. They're going to reevaluate him later this week. So ultimately, if I'm in a league where, I just have so many guys that are hurt, which we've seen the scenario over and over again this year, I'm going into the playoffs. I got to make a run. I'm narrowing it down to my, let's say you have 4 IL spots. I think that's where most leagues are at these days. If I have 5 guys in Bo Bichette, I'm cutting him. I'm cutting him to make that roster spot. So that's where I'm at. So Matt, throwing it right back at you. Agree, disagree? Where are you on these guys, brother?
So essentially, you said you're keeping Matt Olson, trading Randy, and dropping Bo.
Cutting Bichette, yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. I'm right there with you. Matt Olson, ultimately, I look at it like this. Even if I were to trade him, I'm not going to get that first, second round talent in return. So it pretty much stuck with him. And, it's not like he's not performing. The last month he's hit 5 home runs. So, there may be a resurgence and a better time to come. Randy, I like your point of talking about, he's in you know, a harder park to hit home runs and things like that. He's never really been a home run guy anyway. What, 2022 is like a career high. So like, I don't think he'll ever hit the 30-30. The stolen base is kind of what you're really drafting for, and the fact that he has a little bit of pop. I like the fact that he's on a team that will actually give him runs and ribbies versus that putrid Tampa Bay Rays. So like, the landing spot is good, but what's really the reason why I'm on the same page with you as like trading him away is how he's been since he's joined Seattle, right? And a lot of people want to buy into Randy. A lot of people are just like, maybe this is what he needed, and that's kind of where it's at. His last 9 games since he's been on the Rays, on the Mariners, 34 at bats, 9 runs, 9 hits, 3 doubles, a bomb, 2 ribs, batting 265, walked 6 times, struck out 9 times, has a slug of 441, an OPS of 831. Like, this is the prime time to really just sell on him in general, right? Is there a possibility in a world where, this is what it takes in this last week where he's kind of cooled off, you know, kind of like where he kind of like bounces back and he does what Randy does? Possibly. I mean, you look at what guys do when they get traded finally. It's kind of like a relief of stress, right? But I'm going to refer to like Juan Soto when he got traded from Washington to San Diego. The stink just kept coming. There was little spurts of Soto being good, but in a grand scheme of things, he wasn't good and consistent enough for us to really care. So Randy Rosarina, I think, is a full blown trade at this point for me. And you know what? I'm kind of like, okay, cool. And Bo, if you drafted Bo, I'm sorry. You didn't listen to us in the offseason. I screamed it from the rooftops. I,
Yeah.
I have the internet, which is louder than the rooftops. Um, and I flat out called him a bust, and I was 100% right. Obviously, I don't want to see the guy hurt. I just thought he was going to perform like duty, which he did. He did not really live up to it. And with the injury of, basically the calf and him, we're not sure, like, okay, is he going to be back to, the season before the playoffs, or well, they're not making the playoffs, but before the fantasy playoffs, I doubt it. So like they're saying he might be back at some point this year, and you know, might sometime. So like you mean like September 31st or 30th? How many days are in that month? And he gets to play one game, just a farewell to the season. Yeah, I don't care. Like, and I don't think even when he comes back, he's going to provide that kind of value that we truly, really want out of him anyway, right? Like, whatever. So right now, my keep is Matt Olson. My trade is Randy Arozarena, and my cut, which you should have already done anyway, is Bo Bichette. Um, See you later, Bo. Um, Good riddance. And coming up next, guys, we actually have another tandem of 3 of a Kyle Tucker, Dylan Cease, and Romanos,
Elliot, Elliot Ramos.
Elliot Ramos. And what do you do with them if you're in this position? And how do you have it, whether you're in a winning position or if you're in, coming back out of 6th place? And, what are the strategies and the different scenarios going? And it's right after this.
Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer deals on last minute tickets, all in prices and views from your seat. Their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. With their last minute deals, you can save up to 60% with the last minute sports, concert, and comedy theater tickets near you. You can save even more with their flash deals with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. With their zone deals, you save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. They're all in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total up front, so you have no surprise fees when you check out. With their seat views, you can actually get a panoramic view from the seat you'll be sitting in the app before you buy. Honestly, that's one of my favorite features with Game Time because you really get a sense of how you're going to be able to see the game from those seats. With their lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit 110% back of the account with the difference. Game Time's ticket coverage. Your purchase will be covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets and their lowest price is always guaranteed. And then are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And then once again, Matt and I are introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this season continues to unfold, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your victories begins. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. Whew. And all right, guys, you know what though, Matt? I know you took the last three on the finish there, so you know what? I will hop off with these next three. So, as Matt mentioned up front, we have Kyle Tucker, we have Dylan Cease, and we have Heliot Ramos. And once again, as we talked about earlier, we tried to get some of the most interesting names in fantasy baseball right now. And I think, honestly, Kyle Tucker is the epitome of that at this moment. A guy who that injury was supposed to be a day-to-day thing with the shin. He was on an MVP type pace through his 60 games that he had played. 266 batting average, 42 runs, 19 homers, 40 RBIs, 10 steals. Kyle Tucker's a guy who even took another step forward last year. And coming into this year, I really got on board with Matt and a lot of other people who are very, very high on him. And it's just a shame that it's almost going to be like another lost season. So with Kyle Tucker, I'm putting him on my trade. You can't cut him just yet, but I don't feel comfortable keeping him if I'm in a striking distance of a championship at the moment, because I don't know if I'm going to have him when I'm going to need him the most. So if you're able to get 75 cents, 70 cents on the dollar for a Kyle Tucker right now, I'm taking it, just because I want the security going into the championship. You know what? And if it comes to bite you back in the butt at the end, so be it. At least you played it the smartest way you can, because the last update from Astros manager Joe Espada, which actually came out today as we're recording, Kyle Tucker still remains unable to sprint, but has been jogging without issue. And is that what you want to hear about a guy who's been out since June on an injury that was supposed to be a day-to-day thing? I think not. So as much as I love Kyle Tucker and how good of a baseball player he is, and somebody I will be taking in the first round most likely next year, maybe that 1-2 turn, depending on value, I got to trade him for now. Next guy is Dylan Cease. And oh boy, I put Dylan Cease on this list for, a couple of reasons, but I think the main one is just the tear he's been on for the last month. Dylan Cease hasn't missed. He has not missed. 28 innings over the last month, 4 wins, 38 strikeouts, a 0.31 ERA with a 0.56 whip. Man, I think Dylan Cease likes it over there in San Diego. The thing is, the numbers in the season aren't super sexy, but they're really good. 24 starts, a 3.40 ERA. I love the whip, the control with Dylan Cease that he's, taken to another level this year with the 0.99 whip, 137 innings, 176 strikeouts. If you hear the way I'm talking about him, you could tell he's the keep. I don't think we can give up on a guy that's pitching this good, especially when pitching has fallen off. Pitching was really, really good in the first half, and I think month by month it slowly has started to dip. So I'm holding on to a guy like Dylan Cease for now. Let's move on to the last guy on this list, and it's Heliot Ramos. He's a soft cut for me, right? He's a guy whose numbers are really good. He hasn't been playing as much. The ownership percentage is down a lot. So I think it's safe to cut him if you need production right now. I am holding in deeper leagues. I do want to say that, like 15s and stuff like that. He's not a full blown cut, but in those shallower leagues, for a guy who's hitting 287, 54 RBI, 16 home runs, he's really slowed down a lot. So I think it is safe to cut him in those shallower leagues where we picked him up when he was a house on fire. Once again, Elliot Ramos of the San Francisco Giants is who we are talking about here at the moment. And like I said, cut him in those shallower leagues. 15 and stuff, I'm going to hold on for him a little bit longer because it might not be a better option out there at the moment.
So I hear you. We're probably gonna flip on Kyle Tucker and Dylan Cease, but I'm gonna preface it like this, right? If I am in, you know, second, third place, and I know I'm in the playoffs, I'm gonna hold Kyle Tucker. I'm gonna look at it like this.
Makes
He
sense.
comes back, and then my team is already rocking and rolling, and I'm in third, fourth place, or second place, or even first for that matter. I'm pretty good at what I do. Um, you know, you look at it, you go, okay, well, I could live with this. I could live with him on my IL, and the second he comes back, my team goes from already great to now better than everybody else because I've already been competing and beating teams, and now boom, I had Kyle Tucker who was on an MVP pace. Now, for guys that are kind of like, shaking in their boots about what to do with Kyle Tucker, it's more of two like, okay, Dom read it off. He's jogging right now. They're not letting him sprint because right now Houston's got more on the brain than our fantasy baseball seasons. They're talking about playoffs. They're in second place in their division. They're fighting for a
And that's
wild
what
card.
scares me, though, too, Matt. I don't think I mentioned it, but I could see the Astros holding Tucker back for the playoffs, which will hurt us for our fantasy playoffs.
So I don't foresee them that time because that's where they'd rather have him be his like rehab starts where he's getting
True.
warmed up for their playoffs. Whereas like he might just miss this month of August and then like the first week of September he's back. Like tomorrow we could hear he's starting to sprint. Like you look at what's going on with Julio Rodriguez. This is what happens when you have a football podcast too. Everything just gets crossed. Um so um, you know, with Julio Rodriguez, how he's able to jog as well, but they're going to upgrade him to, being able to make tight cuts. And that's going to be the difference of whether he needs a rehab start or not. And if he could make those tight cuts without any issues, obviously, they're two different injuries, then he may just come right up and go right into the swing of things. So that's going to be the same thing, I think, with Kyle Tucker because of that, right? They're going to want him to go against actual talent, not working his way up. Kyle Tucker, I think, has some serious upside too. The second he comes up, was drafted 5 overall, 4 overall for a reason. Now, if I'm in the last place or I'm fighting and I'm on the cusp of getting sixth, and I almost might get booted from the playoffs, and yeah, I'm going to trade Kyle Tucker, like Dom said, for 70%. But in most situations, you're going to hold on to Kyle Tucker. So that's where I'm at with him. Dylan Cease is my move. And in all intents and purposes, you think I'm probably crazy, but because of how he's having a year. I actually have nothing bad to say about him other than the movement on his fastball is not great. But luckily he throws it 97 miles per hour on an average, so it kind of makes up for the lack there of movement in some cases, right? But Dylan Cease is not your first pitcher. He's not your second pitcher. He's not your third pitcher. You were drafting him as your 4-5, right? Especially in like 10 mans and 12-man leagues. He's your 4-5. So you could afford to move him if you hit on all your other pitchers. He's really nice to have, but if you trade him, you could fill a lot more holes and plug it and shore up your lineup for a more of a playoff run and get more depth and get more production out of every player versus just having one guy do really well and, not really spreading the wealth, right? So that is kind of my outlook on why I would move Dylan Cease. And then Ramos, you could probably drop him. I don't even know if I'm cutting him either, but like if I had to pick, yeah, he's my cut as well because he holds no value unless you got a giant fan in your league. Then you could probably trade him off to him. But like he's got nothing. Like this kid is okay. He's cooled off, like Dom said, and like who cares? So out of these three, this is the situation. The biggest part of this is Kyle Tucker, the Houston Astros, and Dylan Cease of the Padres. So it is what it is. Coming up next is our last half. This is such a great episode because we're not speeding through everybody. We actually get to take our time and talk about it. So you're going to want to stick around for that because we got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Hunter Green, Bobby Miller, and Sean Murphy, a 4-player tandem. And you're going to want to know what we're going to do with all 4 of these players. And it's coming up right after this. Oh, wow. Should have that. Get supplies from the site that made for skilled trades. Supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, electrical products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts with over 400 different top brands. Get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support from the industry leading service, friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros and skill trades get a competitive edge by joining the supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join thousands of trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at supplyhouse.com. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Whew. All right. Normally I would pick up where Dom left off and just kind of do what he did, but today is not one of those days. So Dom, please.
I'm in here, brother. And as I'm looking at these names, there's some really fun names. So I'll remind you of the group, and we got a bonus one. So one guy's we're gonna have two guys in one category. We got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Hunter Green, Bobby Miller, and Sean Murphy. So with these guys, I actually want to start with Hunter Green. Hunter Green is such an interesting guy right now. Really taking that leap forward that we all knew he had it in him. As he was coming up through one of the top prospects in all of baseball. For those Cincinnati Reds, he just always had the great fastball. Good secondary stuff, and I knew this was in him, and I'll read you the numbers so far on the year. Through 22 starts, Hunter Green has a 2.83 ERA, 130 innings, 149 strikeouts, a 1.20 whip. So the interesting is he's actually really limited the hits, but the walks are high. So, 50 walks, 130 innings. I don't like to see that, but 83 hits in 130 innings. I actually love it. It's equaled out. We always like to talk about Baseball Savant. If you go to Baseball Savant, a great website for underlying stats if you're into that kind of thing. If you see red on that first little chart there, good. You see blue, bad. A lot of red on Hunter Green's chart. Fastball's working, off-speed stuff, a little not great, but the breaking stuff is good. We believe in the ERA, the indicators. We talked about the fastball velocity, hits over 100 miles an hour consistently. He's not getting hit hard. He's not getting barreled up hard. Just everything looks good. My thing is, though, there's another guy in this I like a little bit more than him, so I'm going to trade Hunter Green. And here's why, though. I have some good points for this. Hunter Green, only 112 innings last year. He's dealt with some injuries. We're getting into uncharted territory. He's at the most innings he's ever pitched in his career. And I just don't necessarily know if he can keep it up. There's definitely a world where he does, but with the names given, I'm going to trade Hunter Green. I know there's a lot of value there. So maybe, as Matt was talking about in the last segment, trading Dylan Cease, maybe you can do the similar type of thing with Hunter Green here, where maybe you have a hole in your lineup where you need another bat, and you can get maybe, a little bit lesser of a starting pitcher and that bat that you need too, with a guy like Hunter Green. But, once again, it might come to bite you in the butt because Hunter Green might have just figured it out and he might be able to just be really, really good. But once again, given these names, trading Hunter Green. Let's move on to my keep, and I'll tell you why. Let's move on to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Oh Lord, has this guy just really been on a tear? And just give myself a little pat on the back. The time I traded for him, when we were telling you all to trade for him, he has just been absolutely dominant. But let's just do the last 30 days to be specific. Last 30 days, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hitting 407, 22 runs, 9 homers, and 20 RBIs. So he's my keep. I always like to talk about, how Vlad is, still has that super potential that we have seen. I don't ever know if he reaches that, what was his second year or his third year where he went on a tear. His third year where he hit 48 home runs. Don't know if we ever see that Vlad again, but we could definitely see the Vlad with a great batting average, over 30 home runs. The RBIs and the runs are going to be really good for him. Steals a bag every once in a while, sometimes too. So I'm holding on to Vlad. So that leaves these last two. I'm absolutely cutting Bobby Miller and Sean Murphy. Bobby Miller, the thing is that Dodgers rotation is starting to look really crowded when everybody's healthy, and there's not really a need to get him back in the rotation. they have so many guys with the Tyler Glass now, Kershaw, Stone, Flaherty, Ryan, Yamamoto coming back. I don't even know if I said Glass now, but there's just so many guys that they have there, that can come back into that rotation that I necessarily don't know if they need Bobby Miller. And Sean Murphy just not playing every day anymore, not that guy that we've seen, back with the A's or even last year, where he was breaking out and just, really taking it to another level at the beginning of the year. Has struggled with injuries. So I'm just really out on Miller and Sean Murphy as well.
Well done, man. I really got to say, we're definitely going to have a little bit of a disagreement on some, and that's fine. Um,
I like that, though. I like that.
So here's the thing, right? Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I completely agree. He's a keep. He's more just on here probably for a little bit more clickbait than he is for anything else at this point. No, I'm kidding. We need to talk about him because everybody kind of was like, "Oh, what do we do? Like, are we buying this?" No, he's
Some
back.
people genuinely didn't believe, though. Some people didn't believe in Vlad, but he's still young enough. I just think there's another level here.
No, absolutely. And you know what? Like you look at it, you just go, okay, like I kind of you kind of trust it, you kind of don't. I'm in. I'm in with Vlad. Vlad is like, and he's back. This is what we drafted him for. And if you're smart like Dom, you made a trade for him. Hunter Green. Um, I I'm kind of trading as well. I like the point of Cease again. You're definitely not counting on him either, and that's the part that you truly got to enjoy when you hit on those late round pitchers. If you need to fill the holes, if you're not, then you could totally hold him. Um, you know, he's just having a fantastic season, and
He could
you
be
know
that guy. He
he
could be
could
that.
be, but is it this year where he's going to make that much difference for you? No, it's more of for next year. Like, okay, he's probably still going to be drafted as maybe a top 25, and that's where like you catch the break where like, okay, you got him at a discount, and now you got a full year of just ridiculousness. But this year it's enough where like I'm not scared to move him. But I'm also not afraid to keep him either. I'm kind of all about it. And then these last two guys, Sean Murphy is a drop. It is what it is. But Bobby Miller is an interesting one. I'm torn with him because you said you're not sure who's going to be there. Yes, Bueller can come back into this rotation and just be like, okay,
Me too.
cool.
Yeah, I don't
Be
even think
there.
I mentioned him when I ran off all the names.
Yeah. Now that's the thing, but like you got to look at like innings limits too with like, Ryan and Stone because I'm pulling up Stone's information now, but like Stone's total innings last year were 111. I mean this year, previous year 46 previous year 31, then 100. So he's never really hit that 150 mark and I don't know if they're going to let him go that far either. So there could be room in that rotation if Bobby Miller does get that back between River Ryan and Gavin Stone. There's two spots that open. I don't think May plays this year, truthfully. I think he's going to be in next year from everything I'm reading too. He's more of a 25 guy. So,
Well, real quick, with Stone, if you look though, last year he did throw 100 in the minors too, so he was at like 131 last year. So he's got a little room. He's got a little room on him.
he does, but I feel like his leash isn't going to be as long if Bobby Miller gets the correction. So, like, he could earn himself that spot. So, like, I'm kind of like, I'm looking at Bobby Miller. I'm not adding him. Obviously, he is a drop if you have him on your team, unless you're sitting in first place comfortably. Then it's worth holding on for another couple weeks and seeing what's going on with Bobby Miller himself. Because he comes back, you have an instant ace on your team. We saw it last year. The kid's got amazing 6 pitches. And it's just, I think that this year just was a tinker year. And next year he's going to get it right. And I'm a big fan. But obviously, you're dropping him right now. So I guess, yeah, we kind of agreed on everything, but I'm a little bit more hesitant with Bobby Miller in those regards. But
Yeah, he's
yeah,
tough. He's a tough one. If you don't mind me jumping
no,
in,
go for it.
so he's a tough one just because too with the latest update being he's going to start for AAA on Friday. I guess we watch that start and we kind of go from there. But don't forget he had to be scratched in his last outing. He was abductor tightness. The first one before that, which was his first minor league start. Since he got sent down, he had 5 earned runs and 3.2 innings, 3 walks, 6 hits. Just hasn't looked the same. I think he figures it out. Going into next year, I think we're going to get great value on him unless he comes back and just lights up the world. Like you said, there's a chance that he does do that. But I think Bobby Miller's another next year guy. I'm going to be high on him next year. I'll probably have him higher than most industry people. Maybe not. No, I know like guys like my buddy Frank Stanfield loves him, so maybe not everybody. But I'll be very high on him. Be looking forward to it. But for this year, it's just so tough when you need that roster spot. I don't know how you hold on to a guy that's in the minor still right now, and there's not any guarantees on him. So that's just where I'm at.
Fair enough. I mean, you know, eh, like I said, it's a matter of your position and if you're able to hold
That
the
that's true. True.
the dead roster spot because we hold prospects a couple weeks too to just see what's going to happen. Bobby Miller obviously has been out a little bit longer, but at the same time, if you can get that ace influxed in, and then say you do train Hunter Green, and then you have Bobby Miller just sitting there, and then boom, Bobby Miller's back. There's your replacement, and then some for Hunter Green. So like
And then you mean
there,
like a bandit.
right, and it's just a matter of how you wanna cover yourself, but again, you have to be in the right situation. I'm not recommending a guy fighting for 6 to do that. No, like, you're dropping him and you're moving on. You gotta be up in the upper echelon where you're guaranteed
Yeah.
a playoff spot at this point, and that's the luxury of having a good team. You can make these little decisions, and then if you need to drop somebody, you can stream if you missed out on the long-term guy. But all right, we spent a lot of time on this. I feel like this was actually a pretty good show. I hope you guys got something out of it. I sure did. Um, so guys, if you love us so much, you're gonna want to move out and check on Locked On MLB after. Sully's got a great show going on if you want to get caught up on the whole league. You can find him wherever you may podcast. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. And if you do so willing, please join us on the subtext. I promise you'll love us there too. Have a great day, guys. Peace.
Peace.